Thanks, Deborah. It's great to be here in Los Angeles. You know, when people think about Mashable, they often think San Francisco and New York, but Los Angeles has actually emerged as our number 2 market in terms of where people are reading our site, which I think really speaks to the impact that digital is having right now on entertainment and media and advertising, which is what I'm really here to talk about today, some of the trends that we're looking at as we move into 2012. So what I'd like to do today is first give you guys a little bit of insider's perspective on media and ad trends from Mashable's point of view, talk about some of the things we're doing on the site, and then get into some broader trends emerging in media, entertainment, and advertising that we're tracking in 2012. And then if we have time at the end, a little bit of Q&A with you guys. So first off, the Mashable story. We started in 2005 as a one-person blog started by Pete Cashmore in Scotland in a bedroom at the age of 19. By 2006, Pete had grown the site to about 500,000 monthly unique visitors. Around 2008, about a year and a half after I had joined, we were up to around 2 million. And today, as of October, we're now doing 18.5 million unique visitors each month, as we've expanded our coverage to really focus on digital and social and its impact on everything from entertainment and media to the social good space to business and marketing. So one thing that's interesting as we've evolved has been where the traffic is coming from. If you look back to 2006, you see 65% of Mashable's traffic was coming from search engines. In 2008, that number down to about 58%, and down today to where it's at 43%. What's making up for that, of course, is social. So Mashable today has nearly 4 million followers across social sites. You can see there about 2.6 million on Twitter, 650,000 on Facebook, 180,000 on LinkedIn, and really spread across dozens of different social sites where people are consuming our news. And this trend's not exclusive to us by any means. You can see here the influence that Facebook specifically is having on a number of publications and where they're getting audience from. So Huffington Post there seeing about 9% of its traffic from Facebook. CNN, New York Times, ABC News all seeing anywhere between 6 and 10% of their traffic originating from Facebook. Another trend that is certainly interesting, something we're seeing internally, is the engagement that we're seeing on mobile apps. So the typical visitor to the Mashable website is only spending about 3.5 minutes there. But the typical consumer that's consuming Mashable on their iPad is spending nearly 6 times as much time, almost 20 minutes per session, which I really think speaks to the iPad as a consumption device, the form factor, and the interactivity that comes with a tablet. You can see we're seeing similar numbers on iPhone and to a little bit lesser extent Android at the moment. Which takes me into what I think is the first big trend I want to talk about today, which is social curation and mobile user experience driving growth for media organizations. And certainly one of the big things that has happened in the last year and we see continuing to happen going forward is the emergence of these news apps for tablets. So things like Flipboard and Pulse and Zeit that don't just provide this engaging experience that we're already seeing in terms of how our readers consume news, but also aggregate things, pull in all that content that people are sharing on Facebook and Twitter to surface the most relevant stories to the top. Now, something we've done in response to that, this is actually something we announced last week and are launching today, is the Mashable Publisher platform. So we've gone out and formed partnerships with a number of niche publications that kind of hit on all the different areas that Mashable covers within digital. So for instance, now you might be able to see an article from ClickZ on Mashable. It's been selected by our editors. And from within that article, you actually be able to become a fan of ClickZ on Facebook, follow them on Twitter, and interact with their content on Mashable. We also integrated it into something called Mashable Follow, which is kind of our approach to the whole social curation game. And in case you're not familiar with it, I just want to show a quick video.
Okay, so Mashable is where people come to find out what's happening on the web, right? From cool new websites to the best how-to guides and, oh yeah, cat videos. Meow. But as the number of awesome new websites, Facebook integrations, and double rainbows grow by leaps and bounds, so the content on Mashable grows. And more awesome stories equal more time sifting through awesome stories. So Mashable decided that we wanted to come up with a better way for our readers to keep up to date on the topics they care most about. Welcome to the new Mashable. With Mashable Follow, you can have a custom-tailored experience by only following the topics that interest you and ignoring the ones that don't. Yeah, it's super easy. Just look out for the follow buttons on articles or click the topics menu item to find topics you like. Then hit the follow button next to any topic to receive updates whenever Mashable publishes a new article on that topic. To see all the stories that Mashable Follow picks for you, just click on the My Stories menu option. Hey, but wait a second. There's more. We decided to reinvent how you share stories you like by getting rid of these and replacing it with this. That's right. Now you can share on all your favorite social media platforms with one click. And to top it all off, Mashable Follow lets you connect with other Mashable readers who share your interests. Receive alerts when people reply to your comments and earn badges. OMG, ROFL. I'm on a horse. Mashable Follow, changing the way you stay in the know. Mashable.com/follow.
So the new publisher platform is integrated with Mashable Follow. So now in addition to following the topics that are most relevant to you, whether that's marketing or mobile apps or social good, now you can follow your favorite publishers as well and get content in your personalized feed whenever we post something new from them on Mashable. So one other point on Mashable before I move on to some other trends that I want to talk about this morning is the way our advertising model has evolved. You know, back in 2005, 2006, when we were seeing most of our traffic from search, we were also seeing most of our revenue from AdSense. Today, that's not the case at all. We're seeing revenue from supported programs. So here you see something we ran with Samsung back during the fall TV premieres, where each night of the week we said, what's new on TV and how can you engage with it on social? So what is the show doing on Facebook? How can you follow the actors that are involved? We did a program with Diet Coke ongoing where we feature extraordinary entrepreneurs. And you can see there the integration in Coke's ad. You can become a fan of them directly on Facebook from within Mashable and our advertising. Finally, a program that's going on right now that some of you might be interested in is the Mashable Awards, where our readers are using Twitter and Facebook to vote for their favorite ad campaigns, their favorite apps, their favorite startups of the past year, and that's sponsored by Buddy Media. So moving on outside of Mashable, but very much some trends that play on the things we're seeing as a media organization, the second trend I want to talk about is the rise of second screen's impact on television. So starting it off, these numbers probably aren't much of a surprise to you, but the ongoing move from mobile users from feature phones to smartphones, currently about 35% in the US. You can see the adoption just continuing to increase. But by 2015, globally, there's going to be 1 billion smartphones shipped just that year. At the same time, no surprise, correlated very much with that is the rise of mobile apps. So 30 billion mobile apps, Berg Insight's projecting will be downloaded this year. But by 2015, you can see that number approaching 100 billion. But I think the trend that's really interesting in here for television and increasingly for marketers is the rise of the second screen. So here's some data from Yahoo that came out recently that said 86% of consumers are using a second device while they're watching television. You can see 33% of them are using mobile apps, 37% are browsing the internet, 40% are social networking. So when you have all that activity going on while people are watching television, I think it really creates a lot of new opportunities for marketers to interact with their audience in new ways. And we're already seeing some really interesting experiments there. One of them was from a company called Into Now, which Yahoo acquired for, and I didn't even know Yahoo was sponsoring this event. I don't mean to keep using their examples. But this is a company that Into Now that Yahoo acquired for about $25 million about 3 months after it launched. And this is a campaign they ran with Pepsi Max. So if you saw this commercial, Into Now's application actually uses audio recognition to tag the ad, and then you could use that for a free coupon to redeem a 20-ounce Pepsi. Shazam, which many of you probably know from your mobile phone and its ability to tag songs, is also moving into this space. And here's an ad that they did recently just to give you guys an idea of what this looks like.
Ladies, time to raise the cuff. I ain't bluffing, show some ink, cause I ain't seen nothing. Welcome to the ankle show. So little bigger leg is how it goes. Jeans raised up, shoes down low. Welcome to the ankle show.
All right, time to show them ankles, please. Them sexy little things about a foot below your knees.
Welcome to the ankle show. So little bigger leg is how it goes. Headline high, shoes down low. Welcome to the ankle show.
Let your ankles show with new ankle jeans and flirty flats. Old Navy. Turn up today.
So I think you might have actually missed the little Shazam tag that came up during the ad. But essentially what happens is if you are using the Shazam application and tag that ad, you would go to an Old Navy site within your phone where you could get a coupon, get more information about the products, etc. So another trend within this interactive second screen television space is this idea of checking into television. Checking in, kind of a concept that was first made popular by Foursquare and Gowalla, the idea of checking into locations. But now this is starting to come to TV. So one campaign that took place recently was Entertainment Weekly teamed up with GetGlue, who's a startup that lets you check into shows. So where if you checked into Entertainment Weekly's shows, highlighted shows for the fall TV season, you get a 40% coupon at Gap. And they saw 70,000 people actually activate this campaign. Companion viewing, another trend on the second screen. So the idea very much of having a tablet or phone in front of you and being able to get additional information and interact with the television. So here's something that USA Networks launched recently, their own second screen companion app powered by a startup that's actually based here in Los Angeles, Yap TV. So you can look at the various shows on USA, get more information about them, interact with the characters on Twitter. They've actually done a couple live tweeting events where they have actors from the show providing commentary while that show's airing. So continuing on the television theme is the third trend I'd like to talk about this morning, which is an explosion in content for connected TVs. So connected television in the United States is still relatively small. You see currently about 34 million households have connected TV in one form or another. So either a TV that's directly connected to the internet, or they've hooked up a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360 or a Roku or a Boxee. The thing that's important to note, though, is that 65% of all TVs sold in 2012 will be connected. So similar to how you're seeing this shift from feature phones to smartphones, you're seeing a shift from dumb TVs to smart TVs. And with that, you're seeing growing content options. So whereas 2 years ago, if you got a Boxee or a Roku, there might not be a lot of content that you consume. Today, that's shifting. So just about last month, Microsoft announced a string of content partnerships. So now you can see HBO, you can get Netflix, you can get Sci-Fi, you can get ESPN through your Xbox 360. And now, while you still need to have a traditional cable subscription to do that, I think this is really going to help whet people's appetite for the idea of using their television in the same way they use their smartphone. So this idea of accessing apps and being able to have this complete on-demand choice of thousands of different pieces of content through their television. And YouTube's getting in this game as well. So I'm sure some of you saw last week, YouTube announced that they've made a $100 million investment in original programming, which is going to see them launch 100 channels on YouTube. YouTube is baked into almost all these connected devices that are shipping, which is going to give consumers the choice they're used to on the internet. So not just 30-minute shows, 5-minute shows, 2-minute shows, just an incredible variety of content that YouTube's going to be offering on connected TVs. And what this means for advertisers, we're just starting to scratch the surface. So within the last couple of weeks, Yumi actually announced, Yumi, the video advertising network, that they had teamed up with LG to essentially power advertising on LG's connected TVs with Toyota as the charter sponsor. So you can see here where you're navigating content and apps on your television, it's accompanied by an ad for Toyota. And what's super interesting here is it means that the same type of targeting that now exists online, the ability to target people based on their social graph and their interests and their influence, is going to extend to the television. And trend number 4 is that same idea extending to the car as well. So connectivity in the car becoming a game changer for radio advertising. I don't think this is something that people are talking a lot about yet, but I think the same trends you've seen in phones, are starting to see in televisions, are ultimately going to extend to the car. So kicking that off is obviously the trend of music moving to the cloud. So this data came out of Gartner actually this week. Here's what they wrote. They said, as consumers opt for connected devices, media tablets, smartphones, and connected media players across world regions, their desire for access to and consumption of music and content is growing as well. So you can see the numbers there. This year, Gartner's projecting about $530 million in revenue to subscription services, but by 2015, they see that number swelling to $2.2 billion. And where that gets really interesting is that you're starting to see the car manufacturers build their own app platforms within the vehicle. So now you can use your smartphone to essentially connect to your car's stereo system and use apps like Pandora. Now, eventually, that's going to shift to a model where cars are actually directly connected to the internet, so LTE and 4G connections built into the car. But what you're seeing already is this idea of being able to access your cloud music and audio programming through your vehicle, which is going to extend those same type of advertising opportunities we were just talking about for television to the automobile. And finally, trend number 5. something that I think really brings everything we're talking about together. Mobile payments becoming the bridge between cloud content and commerce. So mobile payments is an area that's also growing explosively right now. You can see some estimates here from Jupiter Research, who says that by 2015, there's going to be $700 billion in transactions taking place over mobile devices. And you can see the different regions where that growth is occurring. But it's not just early adopters that are doing this right now. Amazon is now doing more than $1 billion a year in mobile transactions. And this is some research that we published recently on Mashable via the mobile ad network Graystripe that found that 66% of moms that own smartphones are using their mobile devices, their mobile devices are playing a role in their shopping decisions. So on the left, you can see 45% are using their smartphone to find retail locations, but you have 21% that are using it for couponing and 15% that are already actually making direct purchases. So this isn't just early adopters we're talking about. Mobile commerce is already having an impact in Middle America. So ultimately where I think this leads is on the left, this idea of connected devices with this new level of interactivity and ads. In the middle, you have these digital wallets, which don't really have time to talk about this morning, but you've probably seen some of the basics of them. The idea of a wallet that not only holds your credit cards and ability to make purchases, but also integrates seamlessly with locations, so the ability to target ads based on where you are, and your deals. So this idea of ads that are interactive work seamlessly through with mobile commerce and then ultimately drive transactions in the online and offline world. And with that, I'd love to take a couple questions. Thank you so much.
I know that you talked about cars having their own app systems and people listening to things like Pandora. How do you think that the digital world, would it replace or supplement the current radio ads and what's going on there?
So currently, Pandora makes up, as of their last earnings release, about 4% of radio listenership in total. So it's currently a very small percentage of the market we're talking about. But ultimately, I think the adoption trend is going to be similar to what you're seeing in smartphones and connected televisions, where you've had Ford, you've had Toyota, BMW, Mercedes, all announcing that they're shipping cars with systems like this. Ultimately, I think you're going to have your people that still prefer AM and FM radio, and I don't see the car manufacturers not offering AM and FM radio at any time within the next 10 to 15 years. But I think increasingly you're going to see these connected radios become an option in most new vehicles that are shipping over the next few years. Any other questions? Oh, one back there.
Hi. I have a quick question about the mobile wallets. What would be your prediction with the players that you had up there and any newcomers that are coming in, even with some of I can't remember the name of it, but there's that vendor that has its own currency. And I don't know if that's going to relate to the wallet, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about your, what your guess is in that area.
So right now, I think the company that's most readily usable in the space is Square. Square is doing now several $1 million of transactions per day, and I think has the lowest barriers to entry. When you talk about Google Wallet, that only works on phones that have NFC built in, which is a very select number of Android handsets right now. It also requires retailers to have NFC readers. PayPal is somewhat in between, where they're not using NFC, but kind of still in the early stages. It's not even, I don't believe it's live yet for everybody. So ultimately, I think right now, Square is kind of the most interesting in the space and the most readily usable, and you're already seeing them on track to process billions of dollars of transactions. Ultimately, I think PayPal, Google, and Amazon are obviously the three big companies to watch, though.
Okay, I have a question from Twitter, from Damien Navarro. What should we be paying attention to more, original branded content or the accessibility of the channel it sits on?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think about, we obviously pay a lot of attention to both at Mashable. One of the things I'm doing in my new role actually is looking at how we can do branded content. So very much some of the programs that I talked about on stage before. I think that for us, that we've always taken an approach of being accessible in the most places first. So making sure that we're on new social platforms as they launch. So we had Google Plus brand pages come out this week, and Mashable was very quick to jump on it and is really aggressively promoting it right now. If you go to Mashable's homepage, you see a little promotion for our Google Plus page right at the top. So, I mean, as a publisher, I would say we put accessibility first, but certainly are very dedicated to interesting branded content opportunities. One last question.
The adoption rates that I've seen for some of the social TV check-ins are quite low. So I was wondering if you think that's something that's going to grow, or if we're going to see more a push for this content extension onto online or social channels from like the TV production companies and networks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the push definitely has to come from the networks. I mean, I think USA is trying a number of things. So I showed like their companion app on there, but they're also doing things with GetGlue. I think right now it's really experimental and seeing what works best and what drives the most activity. But I think ultimately it's going to fall on the networks to actually say this is something we want to extend to our advertisers, offer opportunities in this interactive environment, and come up with campaigns that do that. Because people aren't going to find these apps on their own. I think it is very much, at this point, an early adopter thing. So consumers need to see the benefits, that they can, if it's a tie-in with a Gap, that they can save money, having that in their face versus kind of leaving it for them to read Mashable and find out about it. One last.
Yeah, I have a question. Can you speak a little bit to the engagement that you're seeing from traffic that originates from social sources versus like magazine apps? Are the magazine users, are they more engaged? Are they spending more time with your content?
Well, social, I would say, falls somewhere in between search and mobile. So the average visitor that comes to Mashable via a search engine spends very little time there. They usually read one article and leave. It's something we're constantly working on to try to improve, but that's just the nature of the web. Our social visitors load about 4 times as much content as those search visitors do. So they load, on average, I think 5 or 6 pages when they come from Facebook. But still, that does fall well short of the consumption we're seeing, at least on the iPad and iPhone. Those users are still even more engaged than the ones that we're seeing in social.
Can you speak specifically to the magazine apps, like the people that are using Flipboard and engaging on Zeit and those things?
I actually don't have those numbers, yeah.
Cool.
So I have one over here, Adam. So there's a lot of folks that are talking about the next version of Google TV and the new Apple TV. And what's your view on how that's going to play out in terms of the monetization through the traditional broadcasters and new people that are creating content that are being funded by Google and other parties?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's incredibly interesting about all these platforms from an advertiser perspective is really the unprecedented ability to target. I think you're going to see Google the same way they've extended AdWords to mobile. They're going to do, they kind of, I think, got a little bit ahead of themselves the first go around with extending AdWords to television. But as they ship more of these interactive TVs, the ability to target based on people's social graph and their interests and their influence, I think is just going to be massive. And certainly as you look to Apple launching a connected TV likely sometime late next year or into 2013, I do think it's a trend that's inevitable. I mean, I think people have been predicting it for a couple years and perhaps a little bit disappointed the adoption hasn't been there. But certainly I think it's a trend that's just inevitable. I mean, it's the way people want to consume content. And I think in the long run, it's going to win out. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.